Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Discussions with Dazerin. Today, I am joined by a very prestigious guest, Mr. Andy Miller, co-owner of the Sacramento Kings and CEO slash founder of NRG Esports and the Overwatch League team known as the San Francisco Shock. Today, guys, we'll be speaking with Andy about how he got into esports, his thoughts on Rocket League as an esport, as well as some other questions we could only ask him. But Andy, it's a pleasure you could come on today and chat with me. How are you doing?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. So let's get started right at the beginning for you. Tell me about your first experience with esports and what ultimately led you to getting involved and starting NRG.
Well, it's not the most exciting story. So I think, like, as you're seeing now with lots of traditional sports teams getting into esports, the Warriors, the Rockets, the Cavs, the Patriots, I mean, you name it. There's tons now. I was doing this just earlier. So a few years ago with the Kings, the Sacramento Kings, and we were looking at the average age of our season ticket holder, the average age in viewership on our TV numbers, and I started looking at esports. I got teenage boys who obsessed with gaming, and it felt like I was discovering this, undiscovered chartered island or the land, but the reality was it was always been there, and it was big. And I started talking to Mark Mastroff, who's one of the co-owners of the Kings, and he was like, let's get into this. Let's experiment. Let's try this. So we got in. We got a team, got another team, brought in Shaq, Shaquille O'Neal, and as a co-owner with us. We knew him from a bunch of different relationships, and he loves gaming. And one thing just sort of led to another, and we've been in it now for a few years. So I feel like we're finally an endemic team, I guess, with all these new teams in there. But it's hard to ignore esports.
Yeah, for sure. The growth has definitely taken notice, not only in the professional sports scene, but like you said, with celebrities like Shaquille O'Neal getting involved, with rappers like Drake playing with Ninja, like esports and gaming in general has definitely been on the rise lately. But to talk more about your team and how things got started for you guys, how has the growth of the organization as a whole been over time? Like, how many employees did you start out having compared to how many you have now?
We had two, and we didn't know what we were doing. We got into League of Legends and made, gross every, mistake you could make, and didn't have enough people, and we're overwhelmed. And we learned a ton about by it. We've got a lot of folks now, so we've got 10 teams across, most of the major titles. I think the most people are sort of working on Shock and Overwatch because it's a 12 team squad, if you will, and they're all in Burbank, and there's a big coaching staff and support staff there. But we have managers or coaches in just about every game. Some we don't, but most we do. Some have team houses, some don't. And then on the organization side, there's like another 20 people. So there's a lot of folks, coming in and out of the orbit of Energy and Shock, 70 plus people.
Oh wow, that is, I mean, I get, that is an organization, so to speak. So, working into the scene as long as you have, can you tell me what sort of challenges that come with owning an esports organization?
Yeah, there's a lot. So I think people think it's very similar to running a traditional sports team, which it is in some level, but it's not in most. Just take a look at the Rocket League guys, which we love. Young guys, different needs, different schedules, different availability, different desires. They are not in a team house. They're playing in different states online, getting together versus something like Overwatch League, which is a very buttoned down traditional league structure like the NBA with traditional league owners and lots of rules and lots of obligations from the publisher, but a lot of ownership from the org standpoint. So it's really all over the place. There's a lot of work to do on the player side always, and keeping your teams competitive, and then managing that is hard because you have different ages, obviously, different countries, different languages, law, legal, visa, employment requirements. So it just becomes pretty complicated for small businesses. And we're all still relatively small business. We have pretty good size audiences now, rivaling lots of traditional sports teams some, but the actual, revenue side and just the amount of folks working on the business side is small. So there's an insane amount to do.
That's crazy, and it's cool to see in like esports org that gathers players from different backgrounds and are able to provide with them the best, well, to sort of speak, like a home for them to become the best players they can be. So it's good to see that like you guys as an organization are able to pull that off.
We're trying. It's changing so quickly because you're getting such a higher quality of player, athlete, whatever you want to describe it. But there's a path to pro now, and there is real salaries and money there. I would say a good percentage of the guys on our teams make more money than their parents do or did. So that's a big deal. And whether they decide to go to college or play when they're in college or high school or skip college or after college or whatever it is, there's a real professional career for most of the games now, and it's getting better all the time on the player side. So, it's a real choice for them. They can make a career out of it. So you need to give them everything they need to have a successful career and take care of themselves physically and mentally, which is a big issue for a big social cause for energy and the shock, which is, youth and adolescent mental health, and then just performance. So, we're trying. We're working hard at it.
Yeah, I mean, I commend you. That's really good to see. So, from an owner, from your position, how involved are you with the teams? Do you just let management do their work, or are you like pretty active with what's going on with the players?
I'm pretty active. So, like, I never expected this at this stage of my career, being an old man, to be my full-time gig, but it is. So I'm involved in everything. I don't run the teams by any stretch. I don't know what I'm doing, and I wouldn't ever, that's a recipe for disaster. But I definitely work with Derek Trong, who's our general manager, and Brett Lautenbach, who is our president, and identifying games we want to be in and working with the publishers and then trying to acquire the best players and recruit them and have conversations. No one joins the org unless I talk to them, make sure that we're all in the same sort of mission here and goals and working in the same direction. So a lot of day-to-day stuff. As far as the player decision and the coaching and the managing, I leave that up to the experts.
Yeah. Speaking of which, so like you said, you have kind of like a small hand in in a little bit of every aspect of your org. But has there ever been a time, because like as some of us know, esports can essentially be stressful. There are a lot of tough calls that you have to make sometimes. Has there ever been a time where you felt like you had to step in to make an important decision involving one of your teams?
Yeah. All the time, really. A lot of them with the contract situation, keeping a team, trying to make players happy, working with sponsors and activations. League of Legends really didn't work out for us when we first started. We had to figure out what the heck we were doing there, and we got relegated. And then it was a question: do we want to stay in and try and fight our way back? Was it not a great game for us, being a new org? So we decided to sell the team. That's when we went really hard into Rocket League and Smite and Counter-Strike and some other games, which ended up being the best decision ever, because we gained a lot of fans from a lot of different games, and we really understood what it meant to be a cross title org, and how all these communities were very different. The fans of Rocket League are very different from the guys who play Smite, and they probably have no interest in Overwatch and blah blah blah. So, to learn all that and the culture and be authentic in the community and make sure you got great people who represent those games in that community, it was a big learning, real lesson for us.
Now, do you have like a favorite community or like a favorite like esports that you really enjoy, like the energy that comes from that community?
Yeah, so, well, Rocket League was the game that I really wanted to get into because it was like the only game I could play. liked it. I like it. I love going to the tournaments. I love our guys. We've been lucky to have, a couple of the same guys for a while, and they've all been so competitive. So, and that community is cool. It's younger. As far as now, like I'm super immersed in all things Overwatch, and I can't play the game very well at all. So, but I get it, and the
Mm.
fans are really passionate, and I think it's a real supportive community. And they love the Shock, and they're so great to us, and that's been fun going down to Burbank and seeing all the matches at the Blizzard arena there. It's super immersive, and you get a real glimpse of what we can do on sort of like the future of a local, regionalized matches and creating our own arena, which we're thinking about every day up here in San Francisco and what the fan experience would be, and then how that would translate to having Rocket League matches up there, or Counter Strike, or Nairo playing Smash.
Right.
Like it gets your head spinning. It's great.
That's so cool. Yeah, in terms of player trades and contract negotiations, how large is your involvement in that? Is there like someone who's specifically in charge of those deals, or do you just leave it to them?
Yeah, Derek runs all that, so he's really responsible, and he's great because he's really opinionated.
Uh,
you know, and sometimes he's like, "But this is what I think is the best for our team," and then we have to look at it from a 360 standpoint. Like, is there really a business here? We don't have to have a profit and loss on every team. Most teams are a loss, but it's a question of like, is this the right thing really to do? Like, we really don't want to lose this guy, but this seems crazy to have this type of salary or this type of structure, or is this a game we still want to stay in because we're not we're spending a lot of time on it, not seeing a lot of reward on it. So that type of stuff I definitely weigh in on. But like with the players are the best ones for recruiting the next great player for their team and knowing everybody who's out there, even
right.
though most teams have coaches and managers, and we have Derek as a GM. But like Justin, we got Justin for Rocket League because of the guys. They'd been playing with him, Garrett, and so this kid's amazing. So let's go get him. Go out,
Right.
go get him. So like there's that level, and then there's the level of like Overwatch, where it's pretty sophisticated now, and we have information on every player and Overwatch League and in contenders and in the other countries, and it's a lot about analyzing what your team needs are and recruiting and signing them.
Yeah, that's good. And I like the point that you bring up about the players. Again, I've followed the NRG boys for a long time, and we saw Justin kind of emerge from the scene. Me being around the community, always kind of keep an eye on rising players, and Justin was definitely one of those rising stars. So
Yeah.
after qualifying for RLCS on his team out of style, seeing that he moved to NRG was a like when we saw it on paper. At first, everyone was like, "Wow, this is a really big pickup." But we didn't know how well Justin would match or mesh with the team
Yeah.
because we thought it was gonna be like a bunch of different play styles. But clearly, it's worked out. NRG is 7-0 in league play, and they took second place, going 7 games against G2 in regionals. So they're looking strong going into the World Championships.
We hope this is their time. The guys deserve it, that's for sure. And I knew I didn't know a lot about him when we signed him, but it was really interesting because I knew we had something really great there when I must have received 20 different DMs and texts from other team owners, but a lot of pros on other teams saying, okay, you guys did good here. This kid's going to be great.
Right.
So they know best. So we're looking, forward to Worlds and hopefully can put it together.
Yeah, that sounds good. So, to talk about the other organizations you're part of course, the Overwatch League Team San Francisco Shock and the Sacramento Kings, the NBA team. Being a part of all these different leagues, can you tell me what you notice about them that's different, and if there are any similarities? Also, what are they?
Well, I mean, maybe this is a commercial moment for Rocket League to franchise, but I think franchising is really important because you can see the difference in just the amount of energy and investment that the teams are making, say, in Overwatch League, into promoting the league, into creating content, into getting the players their stories to be told. If you go look at SF Shock is our Twitter for the Shock, and if you see what's in there, there's a lot of time and money and effort and love put in there by the players, by our content team and our social team, and it's returned tremendously in fan interest, fan art, fan involvement, little fan groups, watch parties, you name it. And we don't see that in Rocket League as much because it's really just not that well structured. So I think there's pros and cons to franchising. I think there should always be a path to getting new teams in there, but I really think it works. And now you're seeing the local aspect of it work as well. So far, season 1 has been a big hit as far as the regionalization of teams. So the New York team, the San Francisco team, the Los Angeles teams have New York, Los Angeles, and San Francisco fans. They have other fans, but when we look at our merch sales, you can see that more than half of them for every team is from their home area, which is great because before this started, like the similarities you're asking for aren't there in the way that if you grew up in Sacramento, especially Sac, because you've got one team, it's like Green Bay with the Packers. You grew up in Sacramento, you bleed purple, you love the Kings. Whether you like basketball or not, that's part of you, and they are representative of your city, and everybody's very proud of the Kings. It doesn't, and they go to the games, and that doesn't exist in esports because you didn't have that opportunity to grow up and have a hometown team, to go get season ticket holders, to invest your emotions, and have local sponsors and have people talking about something that you love on a local level. So I think you're seeing that maturation of esports, and it won't work for every esport and every title, but it's the reason why now you're seeing the Patriots and the Mets and Comcast and the Rockets and you name it, the Cavs and Warriors all getting into it because it's very familiar structure.
Yeah, I definitely see where you're coming from. I know the Golden State Warriors have picked up a League of Legends team, which with a similar name, and it was pretty cool when they introduced the team at their arena, like during the middle of like a Warriors basketball game. They just brought out the team and put them on stage. I know there was I could feel like there's partially like a bit of confusion there for people who aren't familiar with esports, but because they sit here and they say, what are all these like kids doing in the middle of the court? So it to some people it's almost like an introduction of esports to them. Which is good though, because it brings in new people to esports, and it kind of introduces them, and it shows how big esports truly is going. But to kind of like hit on something, you talked about franchising a little bit. Do you think like the fact that Overwatch League has like the in-game items, and then the fact that they also do kind of like the token drops, so you can buy like if you like watch and get the 100 tokens, you can buy the San Francisco Shock team skin. Do you think like that also helps attribute to like their growth in viewership, and like do you think that that's something else that we could probably use in Rocket League?
Definitely, it just gets you more invested as a fan. So we don't see any of that stuff. There's nothing that really exists on the org side in Rocket League now. So it's a lot of investment, a lot of effort on the players and the orgs, but more so really on the players, because there's not a lot of structure or opportunity for the orgs to do stuff for them to help elevate the game and themselves. So I think all that stuff would be very welcomed, and I think it works really well, as you're seeing in Overwatch League.
Okay. Of course, I agree. I want to give me that nice NRG decal to put on my Octane and drive around. Support your favorite team. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So,
it's crazy. Like just hitting back on what you talked about a few seconds ago. Just like in the last few months, like with Fortnite and Ninja and the NBA 2K League, it's just out there now. Like you don't need to introduce these kids at the halftime of the Warriors game for a League of Legends team, and the crowd's like, "What is that?" Do that now. They kind of get it.
Yeah.
So they're curious now. Maybe you have a whole bunch of people who are playing Fortnite who never really played games before, but now they're like exploring all these other games, and they find Rocket League, and they find who knows, and now there's just more people playing, and there's a bigger community. So I think we're at that like point where, okay, it's just hit the mainstream that everyone gets it, because you're on the wrestling team doesn't mean you're not a gamer also.
Right.
There's no just category. Like people say esports, but and it's such a blanket term to cover all these games. It just doesn't make sense. That's like going to a basketball game and say, I'm going to a sporting event. I'm not. I'm going to a basketball game. If I like basketball, that doesn't mean I don't like hockey. Doesn't mean I like hockey, just because they're both sports. And so I think people are finally understanding that with esports and just with all the different titles.
You think it'll get to a point where people will say, "Hey, what are you doing Saturday?" "Oh, I'm gonna head out to this Rocket League match." "Oh, okay, cool. I got tickets
Yeah,
for the Overwatch League scene, so I'm gonna be down
better.
there."
Better. We want
That's
people to be like, yeah, I'm going to the Shock match. What's that? It's Overwatch. It's super cool. Come. And the best part is, like, when you go to the Rocket League championships, or even just our watch parties. So everyone plays Overwatch in Burbank, and we have watch parties in San Francisco sometimes, and we send out a tweet, invite our fans, give away some stuff, watch it on giant screens at a bar or something.
nice.
The energy's unbelievable. No pun intended. And most of the time, I'll have no. Every time, someone will come up to me and say, my friend brought me here. I have no idea what the hell I just watched, but that was fun as hell. And I'm coming back. When's the next one?" That's what you want, You want people to get dragged in here with their buddies and be like, "This was fun. I want to play this game now," or "I just want to be a fan of it and I want to watch." Just like, 90% of the people who watch football on Sundays never played football in their life.
Yeah. That's very true actually, and it's again, like you said, it's cool to see, to kind of see that growth and to see how easy it is to bring in just random people. They'll just sit there and be like, "These guys playing video games. This was insane." And then on top of that, when you have the things that Overwatch and Rocket League do have, where I was reading a post about this the other day, where they bring in, they kind of like integrate esports into their game. So Overwatch League has a ticker at the bottom whenever it's live. Same thing for Rocket League whenever they have a major esports event. And when people realize that there's an esports scene in their game, it drives them to play more competitively.
Totally. And Rocket League has the biggest advantage of all the games because you can watch it in 2 seconds and you get it. And you're like, okay, I know what's happening here. Versus Overwatch is hard and it's fast. And then the even better part is, when you see guys like Fireburner, Garrett, Justin, you're watching this thing. I get it. And then you go play and you're like, oh my God, this is so hard. How is it that the ball never even touches the ground? Like they're so freaking good. And you start to appreciate the skill level of the pros. Then you really understand that this is special and a talent and you want to watch.
Yeah, for sure. And that's one of the things that attract me to Rocket League, like as a talent and just like as a player in general. I can show someone, well, I can't explain it on paper. If someone asks me what's Rocket League, I say, "Oh, it's car soccer," and then they're like, "Huh, I don't get it." I'm like, "Let me just show you. Let me show you." And then I pull up a clip, and they're like, "Oh, this makes sense." And it's so much more easier than other games where not a lot of people know, like Genji in Overwatch has like 4 different moves, but people don't even know half of them. They just know he's a guy who like throws like ninja stars and has a sword like every now and then.
Yeah.
So I do like how well for a casual audience it is to watch Rocket League. It's one of the reasons why I kind of like stick to it. It's my main game. Why I commentate it all the time. So
Yeah.
let's talk about the Rocket League team. I mean, we kind of hit on it again. 7-0 league play, looking very good going into the World Championships. Like we said, we know that feels great for you as an owner, like having a team that's really strong going into the World Championships. But you guys picked up your team during the second season of RLCS. We're now on season 5. So what prompted you to pick up a team so early?
Yeah, we've been in it for a long time. I think we're the winningest team ever. I'm pretty sure we have the most wins, which is a testament to the guys more so than us, but just because of the longevity and the fact that they're always good. Mm-hmm. So we've been in it for a while. We liked the game right away. Like I said, like this was the one game I can say that I was like, I want to get into this because I played it and I loved it and I thought it was really cool and the audience was great. The numbers are good. We were looking to expand. I like the fact that if you look at the metrics, it's very North American also versus something maybe like League of Legends, which has a huge percentage of Asian viewers. So it's harder to get North American sponsors for it or interest. So it had all the, a lot of the trappings of something that we thought we could really grow with. So we got in, we liked it, it was easy, our guys are great, and just been trying to grow with it ever since.
Okay. So we kind of answered this one a little bit, but just like to kind of like bring it back to getting an official one. Like, so what do you think of like Rocket League as a game? I mean, of course, it's like good to be picked up and played, but like, where do you think it's going as an esport? Like, what do you see for the future of Rocket League esports?
Well, I hope we see franchising, or I hope we see a refocus on the game from the org and player standpoint,
Mm-hmm.
meaning, like you said, there's no real in-game items, there's no real promotion or sort of around the org. The fact that it's almost all virtual, beside what a couple lands, means that even if I sold a sponsorship, where is that sponsor going to be seen on the screen? There's no jersey to be viewed. There's no graphics. It's hard. So it makes it harder to invest as the game gets more mature, and I think that would help out the whole ecosystem. Because it's a great game. They have great sponsors. Sonex is a really great publisher, and they're doing a wonderful job. And the audience is good, right? Really
Yeah.
good. Those are good numbers. But you can't really, there's no pull through. So eventually it's going to, be a decision for a bunch of orgs saying, okay, I like the game, but I'm not sure how, we ever sort of get anything back from the game
Mm-hmm.
from a sort of monetization standpoint, or just a, growth standpoint.
Okay. So to kind of hit on like again, you talked about the franchise. You talked about how like again Overwatch League, franchise league. From your standpoint, what was the process like getting into that?
It was nerve-wracking. So we had been in it from the beginning, pretty early on. We had a really popular team with Seagull on it, and Harblue, and some great guys. And we liked the game. We wanted to stay in it, but we didn't know what their plans were for Blizzard Overwatch. It was pretty secretive, and we were worried and waiting, and kept hearing that they were having meetings with other people, and thought we were getting shut out. And then we finally had our meeting, and there were some things we loved, some things we didn't like, but we eventually got the opportunity for San Francisco, which we didn't think was going to be an opportunity for us. That's where most of us are based, including myself, and so we jumped at it, and then sort of choked on the price tag. So we did not expect it to be $20 million, and said, okay, what are we going to do here? So there's a lot of planning and a lot of action once we said go on it. But it's been great. And there's other leagues as well where there's franchising now, like Smite, doing a great job. So we're a franchisee there. I just announced a franchise org for the new Clash Royale League, which is really well put together. That one's sort of similar to Overwatch in a way, where it's going to have team houses and studios and live matches, and bigger investment by the publisher.
Okay. So for our audience, who again, this is a Rocket League audience, we don't know what franchising is yet. Could you kind of like give us a quick rundown on what that is, and like again like the process of that?
Well, it depends. They're all different. So I don't want to bore everyone with a business lesson, but they're all different depending on the publisher. So someone like Overwatch League, look at it like the NBA. You buy in, you own 1/12 right now of the Overwatch League, and there you participate in rules and player development and health and promotions, and growing the league, and you share in something, some pot of the revenue or profit. But most importantly, you kind of have a permanent slot, or a slot in there that is not going to go away unless your team is horrible for a long period of time or something like that, which allows you to invest in it. So you're working hand in hand with the publisher. And some leagues require you to have team houses and do all these things, and some don't, like Smite. And then there are other publishers who they're not into it, like Valve, Counter-Strike. It's just a tournament-based approach. So there's a bunch of different leagues and tournaments, and it is what it is. But you see teams come and go a lot, and players come and go a lot. So it depends really what you want. Do you want stability? Do you want orgs that fans can get behind, and players to know that everything's sort of stable there and they can grow and actually have a career there, or is it more fluid, where you see teams fold or get drop out, or never heard from again, or the players leave. So it's not that black and white, and there's plus and minuses to both of it. But for Rocket League, I think it's I'm sure Sonics is thinking about it. I think it's time to figure out what how we take advantage of this wonderful product and this big audience that's been developed to make it more stable and growth oriented as a partnership for the players and the orgs and the publisher.
Yeah, this is something that has been kind of like talked about like around the community here and there, but it's always very insightful to get someone like yourself to come on like a show like this and be able to explain that for some people who don't, who would wonder like how the owner of NRG would feel about this. We have a current format where we have 2 world championships every year. And we have some major tournaments in between that, but they don't necessarily affect anything going into the Rocket League Championship Series. So for you, again, part of all these different leagues, part of all these different leagues, seeing this different franchising, if you could have like your pick, like on a format / franchise style for Rocket League, like what would, as an owner, like make you the most comfortable to invest more into Rocket League?
So Rocket League is a little bit of a challenge versus like an Overwatch League. I don't know if everybody knows, it's public, but you have to be 18 years old to play. So you're 18 years old, which means you're going to move to wherever the team is, but now it's all in Burbank, California, and you're an adult and an employee. Versus Rocket League, where like look at our team, we have younger players than 18 years old, and you can't ask someone who's a junior in high school to miss 3 months of school necessarily and go do these all different things, whether it's playing or working with sponsors or whatnot. Like it's just a different setup, so it's harder. So I don't know if I would go as hardcore as Overwatch League, but maybe something as similar as Smite, where there's more permanent slots and participation in the league and the marketing and the rules and the committees, chances for other teams to play in. So sort of a different structure, maybe even a minor league system like Contenders has for Overwatch. But and I also, there has to be some visibility of the actual players and the brands and the orgs when they're playing. So otherwise, there's only 1 or 2 opportunities to ever have brands involved or the orgs involved, beside just our logo on the screen when the guys are playing in the background.
Yeah. Okay. I can see that. Again, that's like something that's like been a big question. There's been a lot of format talks around the scene about if they think the 2 world championships a year is good enough for the scene. Should people have 1? Should we do something more like a CS:GO where all you get points for playing in these like major events?
Yeah.
And have something work like that. So it's definitely been a hot topic. So it's good to like get your opinion on that.
Yeah, I like the CS:GO format or a hybrid that you were mentioning as well. Just things that keep everybody involved and engaged, and there's, even if your team is struggling at one point in the year, they should be able to pull it out and resurrect themselves at another point.
Mm-hmm. So you have a lot of teams under your org, under many different games. How do you decide which one to watch? Like, which esports attracts you the most and why?
I'm watching an insane amount of Overwatch right now because it's hard not to, especially with the team. I pretty much watch I like them all. I watch a lot now, which is crazy. So Rocket League is always, that's the easiest one, and I would say Overwatch. But our Counter-Strike team has always had a soft spot. They really are, longest running team. There's a guy in the team, Fugly, who's been with the org from the beginning, and we've worked really hard to learn and build and develop a good infrastructure and an organization there. And our team is really, really good right now. So we came in first in the North American leagues, and they're finally playing their first LANs, and it's just exciting to watch them play and develop, because you know the guys and you're pulling for them, and you know how hard they've worked, and everyone's calling them onliners now and waiting to see if this is real, at these lands. So I just want to go see what's up to, and stand up there next to them and prove everybody wrong.
Oh, are you going to be able to go to the World Championships in London?
I want to. I don't think I'm going to be able to. I think that is graduation time around here for my kids. Yeah, but I love it. I've been to the others. I've been to the Smite World Championships when we won in Atlanta. Those are great. Counter Strike, Dallas next week. So there's always something to do, especially when you have 10 teams. That's for sure.
Yep, I'm sure that is. So you have a lot of celebrity investors: J-Lo, A-Rod, Shaq, and newly added Tiesto into the mix.
Tiesto.
How did they end up getting involved with NRG?
Well, I'll start with Shaq. So we had a great relationship with Shaquille through the Kings and through Mark Masteroff, through a bunch of businesses they had done together. And we then got approached by Alex Rodriguez from Yankee fame, and he was interested in it purely from the business standpoint. He's like, yeah, you want to help me? I'll promote like Shaq, but I want to learn. In fact, I want to put my money in, and I want to be on your board. So he's an actual board member, comes to every board meeting, talk to him all the time. He's terrific. He brought his girlfriend, Jennifer Lopez, in, which you can't say no to. And she was actually really interested in women in gaming. So she wasn't just like, okay, I'll put some money in because Alex did. She wanted to talk about women in gaming and sort of the toxicity issue that exists in gaming and how to make this a calmer, gentler, kinder place, and doesn't see a reason why we shouldn't have female pros in Name the Game. So we did a deal with Cal Berkeley, University of California, Berkeley, with a wonderful school, one of the best, if not the best, public school in the country. And part of the initiatives there are about women in gaming, and she was a big push for that. And then we've always had guys like Jimmy Rollins and Ryan Howard, who are just gamers and amazing baseball heroes. And so we got Michael Strahan, we brought in Marshawn Lynch, who's hilarious. And of the athletes, and I'll get to Tiesto, but of the athletes side, they kind of all saw a little bit of themselves. Like at that level of an athlete, like if you're Alex Rodriguez or Jimmy Rollins, you were the man by the time you were like 12, right? Right. Everyone was telling you were special. By the time you were 15, it was like, yeah, he's probably going to go pro. And by the time they were 19, 20, they were the youngest guys in Major League Baseball up on this big stage and completely, overwhelmed. And they all say the same thing. And that's what we have here. Like, look at Justin. Look at his rise. All of a sudden, playing in front of 80,000 people, and our Overwatch guys playing in front of hundreds of thousands of people, coming home and streaming, and people get on chat saying, "You suck, what the hell?" or "You're the greatest." It's a lot to handle. So they understood that, and they wanted to be involved in that. Something that resonated with them. And then Tiesto loves gaming, and he and Marshawn Lynch share some representation. And he called and said, "I'm in Vegas. Your Counter-Strike guys are in Vegas. Like, I'd love to meet them and talk about investing." So we brought the guys up. They loved it. He was super fun and normal and cool. And we're talking about doing a whole bunch of stuff, from a concert music standpoint and clothing standpoint. And he's just got a really great perspective.
Oh, wow. That'd be very interesting. I've always wanted to see what music and gaming is like. We got a taste of that with the Ninja Drake and Travis Scott stream, but seeing that from esports, in an esports perspective, would be very, very interesting. And it's always really cool to see so many different people getting involved to want to contribute to esports.
Yeah, we've seen we do a lot of stuff with Deadmau5, and I know he's been involved with Rocket League and a bunch of other games, and it's just like natural tie-in, like music and different types of music, EDM, hip hop with gaming and esports. So it just makes sense. Mm-hmm.
Well, all right, Mr. Miller. I know you have somewhere to be, so I have one last question for you.
Yes, sir.
What's your most memorable experience in esports? Like, what keeps you coming back, and what makes this like all worth it for you?
Well, I guess it's two things. One, I'm super competitive person, which may annoy my wife and friends, but I like the competition aspect of it. So when we won the Smite World Championship in Atlanta a couple years ago, that was just a ton of fun. Like it was a blast. Like this is cool. And but what makes me come back is like you get to know the guys on these teams so well and their families and their parents and their struggles and what this means to them, and it's like your own kids. You want them to succeed. You want them to do well. I'm crushed when we lose. I'm crushed when we lost. In the series to G2, for our Rocket League guys, our Overwatch guys. I'm down there and I'm in the green room when they come in and when they win and they're hugs and happy, and when they lose, they feel like they disappointed you, and you know how hard that they really work. So we've been blessed. We've got a team, an org with there's no team that's sort of troublesome, don't like each other, bunch of dicks. There's a bunch of great guys, and they're all pulling for each other. And a lot of we have this, very cliched hashtag energy fam, but we do really see ourselves that way. And if you follow us, you see that like when Nairo wins a Smash tournament, half the org is congratulating him, and everybody's watching Svenos play Fortnite, and the Counter-Strike guys, we all were in their house in Vegas watching our Overwatch League guys beat Philly, and they were fired up exchanging messages the second it ended. So like that's great. Like you really feel like you're building a family here, and everybody cares about each other, and so it's really hard not to just get so deeply involved in it.
That's great, guys. This has been Andy Miller. Andy, thank you again so much for coming on the show. It's been a pleasure to talk to you and get your insights from esports. I'm so glad to have you guys. Be sure to follow Andy on Twitter at @amiller. It's right under his name on the overlay. And then of course you guys know the NRG team. Be sure to follow Gary G, Fireburner, Justin, and the NRG org for all of the NRG things that are going around that organization. Andy, any last words before we close off?
I appreciate it. Appreciate the time. Hopefully we'll have a lot of fun at Worlds and have a lot to talk about.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much, Andy. Guys, this has been Discussions with Dazerin. I am Dazerin, signing off. You all have a good one. Take care.